About a month ago, I made a video on Pennywise vs 11 and why it was closer than we thought. Now, this was only using the movie version of Pennywise and the higher ends for Stranger Things, but I said that I would redo the fight after Season 5 finished, and well, fucking Goji already got to it, so I'm just going to restructure the video a little bit. And since Pennywise was pretty much the MVP of villains of 2025, I thought putting it as the forefront against his many matchups would be way more interesting to do anyways. Vecna was also more powerful than 11 and needed heavy plot armor to take him down, so we'll use him over 11. Yeah. But before we get into that, we reached 5,000 subscribers, and that's pretty impressive since that's 5,000 more people than live on Mars, so yeah. So for the occasion, if this video gets 300 likes in the first day of it being uploaded, I'll finally do an actual Invincible vs Deku video because I promised that a year ago, so yeah. Anyways, let's get into this. Anyways, let's start with some honorable mentions, like I was considering of doing, but they really don't do much. It's basically the clown characters who aren't really going to compare to it, but it was characters like the Joker, Art the Clown, and Zombozo. Funnily enough, Zombozo might actually have the highest chance out of the three because he has the strongest stats and the gear to absorb emotions. But Pennywise just has better stats and can use emotions alongside a lot of his other powers, so yeah. Joker and Art are also hard carried by their gear and pain tolerance and possible regeneration. But again, one Deadlight's showing and they're all screwed. Now for the first actual character we're going to talk about, it's Vecna from Stranger Things. In terms of power and speed, his scaling mostly measures up to the creation of gates, scaling to more power than what humans could manage at the time, which was consistent with statements scaling 11 to bombs, which have got scaling around at best to the hydrogen bomb, reaching 100 megatons. With simple increases in stats, they would just range higher in this tier, but Vecna does have a higher end, as he has enough power to move the abyss and merge parallel worlds through using the Mind Flare in the minds of children. I don't know how that scales, but it's a higher end he does have. At best, that could scale to planetary, which I guess is good, so now we have a decent cap for Vecna's strength. But despite this, his weaknesses of overwhelming the hive mind and attacking them at all fronts, as well as using fire, it weakens both Vecna and the Mind Flare a lot to where they just get beat up and Vecna gets decapitated by Joyce with an axe. Moving back to the clown, the only real issue is going to be Vecna's amped telekinesis with the Mind Flare, since Penny doesn't exactly have a counter for planetary levels of power besides having some statements of being the eater of worlds. Despite the fact that both times he just gets made a fool after saying that, so he should just stop saying it and actually do it. But besides the point, that telekinesis wouldn't really matter since it wouldn't even harm Pennywise, since he doesn't really get hurt. In fact, it's really just his avatar state that gets hurt, and Vecna has no chance of hurting the Deadlight since it's a spiritual entity of its own and can just zip off when the avatar is destroyed. Even then, the avatar can just regenerate. Like, he had his head blown off and he just literally laughed it off. Plus, the hive mind being overwhelmed is such an easy weakness to counter with a shape-shifting, memory warping, illusion creating clown with the Deadlights to paralyze all that see it, and they had no real counter for it, so Vecna's fucked. Okay, moving on, we got the next big boy, which is Freddy Krueger himself, whose scaling has two different levels of power, since one of is where he is in the dream world and the other one where he isn't. In the real world, Freddy doesn't have access to as many powers and his strength is restricted to being about the level of Jason Voorhees, both of which survived the propane explosion, which caps at city block level. As well, both were more harmed by each other's attacks, so they would just upscale. But in the dream world, which Freddy can drag you into when you're asleep, he can do anything he wants, and can warp the dream world itself, which is a parallel dimension to our own, which can be scaled up to universal depending on how you want to do it. He can also send houses flying into outer space with calcs in their relativistic ranges, and if you really want to go there, him traveling around the dream world could reach anywhere higher than light speed. However, with all of this, the dream world will likely not be a factor, since Pennywise can just kick whoever out of his mind, and will likely do the same with Freddy. The reason I didn't give the same perk to novel Avatar Pennywise in the short a while back was because we didn't see that version pull off such an ability besides using the Deadlights to force Freddy to confront its true form, which Freddy had accounted to the Deadlights with their sunglasses gag, just removing the ability of the Deadlights affecting him. But my thoughts of that have kind of changed since then. Whatever. With how Pennywise's Deadlights work in the novel, it can trap the soul and mind of the victim as well as bring them to a comatose-like state, only really being helped by a cosmic being on the level of its true form to break out. The live-action version, however, just permits a light that bypasses your senses and, still breaks your soul and mind until true belief from a Shine user breaks you out of that comatose-like state. And what's funny is with this version of Pennywise now overseeing time and watching it all at once, being essentially omniscient and omnipresent as an avatar, he could technically be in the past where Freddy is born and, kill him as a baby. It's not time travel, it's just he sees where Freddy is and just kills him and removes him from the timeline. Or worse, eat him as a child. Now for our third character, Slenderman is another interdimensional being that's existence theoretically predates time, with his abilities really reaching another way from mind hacks to reality warping, where he can move in between dimensions that causes his teleporting, which is a weird way to argue speed, as both this and the dimensional bleeding ability for his attack potency. That stuff is mostly just hacks that Slenderman has at his disposal. We can't really scale that to his attack potency and speed, but we can scale it to his hacks, and he can use it, so I guess technically we can. While his normal physical state just exists and uses tentacles and extended limbs to trap victims and manipulate them to becoming his physical servants as proxies, he doesn't have much combat-wise. No punching or anything, just hacks based on what he might be able to do, which might be a good change of pace for a fight against Pennywise. Now, Pennywise's avatar and deadlights don't scale as high as the dimensional bleed merging and messing with dimensions, or the dimensional movement being overall weaker in stats. Yeah, his hacks might have to come in clutch as well. Slenderman technically has resistances to paralysis and can likely perceive higher dimensions, as he likely oversees time as well. They're likely at a huge stalemate, with neither being able to hurt each other or even kill each other. This fight would really just be up to Slenderman moving to where Pennywise either is in his nap state or he's dead. If he can oversee time, then he should be able to, so really this fight is just a draw. Finally, we get into the big meat and potatoes of this video. Sonic EXE vs Pennywise are a matchup that mostly gets talked about because they both slam Slenderman in their matchup. But since this isn't novel Pennywise, does it even stand a chance against Sonic EXE? Well, Sonic EXE is a multidimensional being beyond our universe who tries to merge together his void with the lower universes to torture humanity for all eternity. How is this different from what Slenderman can do? Well, it's because he can actually mess with spirits and souls and can perceive a higher dimension, as well as he can respawn in the void if his avatar dies, which would require a lot of power to do, a power level we haven't seen from live-action Pennywise so far. From the other hacks we mentioned before, EXE also has resistances to said hacks, so he wouldn't really be affected by the deadlights, and going by his main ability would likely end the fight the moment he devours the deadlights, absorbs the soul, or spirit, or whatever you want to call it, by either destroying it or just adding to the fuel of his power. Again, this is live-action Pennywise, and all his abilities and powers are much weaker than his novel's true form. But I know I'm gonna get comments saying that he's high out-versal anyway, so let's wait for that anyway. The only thing I see Pennywise putting up in this fight is his higher intelligence, which wouldn't exactly be a factor in this kind of fight, considering he could just get speed blitzed in one shot and all those things, so yeah, he's kind of screwed. So overall, Pennywise, live-action version, would beat Joker, Art the Clown, Zombozo, Vecna, and Freddy in the real world, might have a draw with Dreamworld Freddy and Slenderman, and would finally lose to Sonic EXE. What a roster of characters.
Yeah, my